Hey, CD, you talked about Avina yesterday and how great she played. Is it remarkable? She's not all Big East or All American or anything. What an impact she has on the team, on and off the floor. And did you have any inkling when she came here that she was going to play that type of role for you guys?
Well, Avina is a really good player, and there are a lot of good players that don't always are not always able to be recognized as All-Americans, but she's certainly an important part of our team and the success of our team. And I think when you have a group of individuals who don't care who gets the credit or the accolades, and you have a better chance of being successful. And I think E's willingness to give up part of that, part of her game, part of all that, and to become more of a complete player has definitely helped our team. I think, we have kids on our team and in our program over the course of our, 30 some years that they are willing to give up of themselves for the success of the group. And E has bought into that and has really, gotten better in a lot of, she's a much better basketball today than she was when she came here, basketball player today than she was when she started.
Roger.
Can you also talk about how much more of a complete player Kristen has become this year? I know Gino's talked to quite a few times about her defense improving, but just overall, she seems to be a better player than she was last year.
Well, I think it's hard for players today because when they come in or when they're in high school or when they're growing up, it's all about scoring. And having the ball in your hands is a very small part of the game. There's a lot more time during the game that's spent without the ball. So learning how to play without the ball, learning how to get someone else open, learning how to get yourself open, that's something that I think players all around need to get better at. And that starts with training, but also you have to play more 1-on-1, 2-on-2, 3-on-3, and learn the intricacies of the game. I mean, you think back, and I think about the conversations Kobe Bryant had with some of our players after they left or even while they were here, and his preparation in terms of how to play the game and what you have to do to become a better player. I think for someone at his level to do that, younger players need to start developing that same kind of identity. Like, hey, I have to get better in a lot of different areas, both offensively, and I have to be good defensively. And so for Kristen and a lot of young players to embrace the totality of being a basketball player as opposed to being a scorer or shooting the ball all the time, I think that's part of the growth, and that's part of what, the growth of being in college allows you to do.
Alexa.
Hi, CD. I was wondering if you could give us a little update on how Nika's doing this morning and what the severity of her injury is, and if you guys have any word on whether she can play tomorrow.
Well, she sprained her ankle, and right now she's questionable for tomorrow. The only thing I can tell you that if there's any way Nika can play, she'll be on the court. Right now, it's just her status is questionable.
Does it help at all to have that she has, so thinking back to the Big East tournament, I don't know how comparable the injuries are, but she came back the next day and played and she looked great, but today she'll have a day of rest. Does that help?
Yeah. Well, every injury is different. This is not the same ankle as the other ankle. And I'm not an athletic trainer, so I'm not going to be able to compare the severity of one versus the other. But this one it's different. It's a different ankle. But as I said, if there is any way Nika can be on the court, she will be on the court. I know her, and that's the way she is. There's absolutely no question in my mind. If she's able, she'll be there.
Mark.
Hey, Coach. I'm Mark Larson from Spectrum News in Syracuse. Just wondering, is there an update on Gino? Is there any chance he's back tomorrow? And if not, how comfortable are you continuing this?
Well, the update as far as coach, he's feeling well. but he would not be able to come down here until Wednesday because Tuesday, tomorrow, would be his 10-day isolation. So the earliest he could be here is Wednesday, and obviously we would have to take care of business tomorrow in order for that to happen. So as far as being comfortable, I don't really have a choice, do I? So I think do what we can do between our staff. We're prepared. We're going to be prepared. We haven't had practice yet today. Syracuse is a really good team. They do a lot of different things. They play zone. They match up. They press. They've got a size factor in the middle. So it's going to be a challenge. We just finished meeting. We're going to meet with our team in a little bit and finish putting the game plan together and try to work on it today when we get to practice.
Can I just ask a quick follow-up? Does Syracuse look any different to you than last time you saw them in 2017, I think it was?
Well, I think both our teams look different from 2016 when we played them. But they have a different style of play, and I think they play the zone, they extend it, they match up out of it, they try to keep you off balance, and that's going to be a challenge for our young team to handle.
Thank you.
Doug?
Hey, Chris, how's it going? Just going back to Kristen for a second. I know every player evolves at different rates. Why do you think now, it's all come together for her? I mean, does some of that have to do with her being a junior and kind of having a sense of urgency as she spoke of, or, why do you think it's taken her to this point to become the defender that she, is?
It's a process. We sometimes have unrealistic expectations for players, and we have as coaches, as reporters, as fans, we have a certain idea of what they should do, and sometimes it takes players longer to figure it out. Sometimes it takes them less time to figure it out. Everybody has their own timetable, and as long as they figure it out, that's the most important thing. And that's sometimes it's a sense of urgency, sometimes it's need. This year, it was definitely a need. In the past years, I don't know that Kristen needed to do those things because other people could do them instead or for her or help her do them. And this year, the responsibility to do those things fell on her shoulders. And to her credit, she was willing to and has embraced that. And I think that when you talk about growth, that's part of maturity happening.
How would you describe her as a defender? I know we've obviously lauded, what she did in the Big East tournament, but just how would you describe her as a defender?
I think she's a physical defender. I think she is getting better at working at making the people she's guarding do things that they don't necessarily want to, or at least limit them from going to their strength. So she's learning and studying the game and studying opponents and tendencies and things like that, so that you're never going to stop it. You're not going to hold someone scoreless, but to limit how they score in the way that they like to score, I think that's an important part. And that's something that she's really kind of latched onto and really works hard at.
Nice.
I'm sorry if I messed up your name pronunciation. Rashawn?
Hi, Coach. My name is Roshan. I'm from the Daily Orange at Syracuse. I just wanted to ask, obviously you're familiar with Coach Q and Syracuse's program. I assume you've kind of watched a little bit of film on the Orange at least. I think Coach Q's never beaten an AP #1 team. What's the biggest thing kind of holding Syracuse back that you guys are looking to exploit, I guess?
I don't know that I'm in a position to say anything that's holding them back. I think he's done a great job. They have opportunities every year. I think, this year they had some injuries. So I don't know that I'm in a position to say anything. I have enough to worry about my program. I'm not sure that I'm in a position to say what holds back or isn't holding another team back. I think, they have a style and he recruits to that style. He's a terrific recruiter. They've had, an influence of the international players in in his program as well. And, you know, they shoot the ball well, they take a lot of threes and, you know, they get up and down the floor. So, you know, I think they're a good team. They're going to be a tough matchup. Yes.
Fair enough. And just, I guess, as a quick follow-up, you know, have you guys specifically game planned for Camila Cardoso? Obviously, she's 6'7". I know that's something which teams that Syracuse played, their opposing coaches have kind of said all year is like, we have to come up with a specific plan for Camila. Is that something you guys have talked about?
Well, yeah, I'm not sure they came up with a plan over the course of the year. So I'm not sure in one day that we're going to be able to do that. But certainly her size poses a problem. And there are different, you know, you have to make some decisions about how you want to go about. You're not going to keep her from getting the ball. So you have to decide, you know, how you want to do it. You want to try to maybe do your work early and work hard at trying to get her off the spot she wants to be on. But it's a tough, you know, that's a tough job because of her size and then we have to keep her off the backboard. So even if she's not the one taking shots, she's going to rebound the ball. So it is a challenge. We've played some, you know, we haven't played anyone 6'7", but we played some bigger bodied teams. Tennessee had, you know, 2 kids that were pretty big. So it's a matter of, you know, being physical and how the game's called is going to have a little bit to do with it. You know, if they're going to call out a ticky-tack fouls, that's going to be to our disadvantage inside.
Wi-Fi cut out. Pat, you can go ahead.
Hi, Coach. Kind of along those same lines, can you talk about the importance tomorrow of the play of Aaliyah and Liv with Inkster and Cardozo down low, and the development, especially of Aaliyah as a second post threat this season, and how dangerous your post game is?
Well, I think Aaliyah and Liv really work well together, and I think that's, you know, come over the course of the year. I've said it before. I think Aaliyah may be our most improved player, start to finish for this year. She's finishing around the rim better. She's definitely our most physical physical post player, but is quick enough to be able to get out on the perimeter and defend and do some things that can help us. Running, you know, she's going to have to both Liv and Aaliyah are going to have to know where Cardozo is and not try to shoot over her without knowing where she is, because they're just going to, you know, she's going to block their shot. So we're going to have to be a little more crafty in that. And we're going to have to knock in some 15-foot jump shots. So those are all things that I know we can do, that they do and they work on. And hopefully that's what they'll do tomorrow.
Roger?
CD, you said that Avina could have been your MVP last night. Can you just talk about what you think her strengths are right now?
Well, I thought last night she made a couple, especially in the first half, she knocked in a big 3, and on the defensive end, she was just really setting the tone for the rest of us. We started out a little bit haphazard with how we were guarding their, and we had gone over it. We didn't, you know, guard their back cuts, and we were switching too soon and giving up some back cuts. But I thought E got down in her stance and really did a great job in the first and the second half, guarding their best player or any of the perimeter players to try to limit their threes. It was just a look in her eye, you know, honestly. It was an intensity on the defensive end. And as we've said a million times, our offense starts on the defensive end. So the more she was able to do that, I thought the other players picked up on it, and it helped, you know, spearhead what we were able to do on both ends of the floor. What she does well, I think she does a little bit of everything well. You know, I think that's one of the things that will make her, you know, if you leave her open, she made a big 3 yesterday. So she can knock in the 3. She can go to the basket hard. She's a good rebounder, for a guard. So those are all things that I think she does well, and all things. She can pass the ball. She can play 3 or 4 positions for us. So I think that adds to the versatility of our team.
Louise?
Thanks. Sorry to ask a slightly off-court question, but we're at the Wall Street Journal reporting today that the NCAA has in the past withheld the use of the March Madness brand from the women's tournament. And I wanted to ask if you thought it would be beneficial to be able to say you're part of March Madness in terms of attention to the games.
Can you ask the question again? I missed the first part.
Sure. The Wall Street Journal, reported for, is reporting today that the NCAA has, over the years, said that only the men's tournament can use the March Madness branding. So on the screen you right now, that's why there's NCAA women's basketball in the middle of the court.
Okay.
And so I wondered, do you think it would be beneficial for the women's tournament to be able to call itself part of March Madness?
I have to be honest, I didn't know that we've always referred, in talking, we would say, we talk about March Madness. I didn't realize that that was an NCAA thing, but I certainly think that's something that needs to be discussed and changed. I think it looks a little embarrassing on the court when you see women's basketball and nothing connected to March Madness. I don't think that, I don't know, there are women playing, so clearly it's women's basketball. I think everybody can get that. So I think that certainly it's something that needs to be discussed and pushed for, because it doesn't make sense. If unless someone from the NCAA can give me, talk to me about give me a solid reason on how it makes sense. In my mind, it doesn't make sense. So I would have to think that it should be discussed and make some changes in the future.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions for CD? Alexa, go ahead.
With this group of, 7 freshmen out of the 12 kids that you have, and you guys you had a little bit of experience, obviously, at the Big East tournament, needing to scout and prepare with little prep time, but it's obviously different when you're not, you're familiar with the Big East teams, but these kids are not necessarily familiar with Syracuse. I know you haven't had a chance to really talk with them then, but what are you expecting, or what do you hope that they can come into today's preparations with, so that they are focused on the scout and can be prepared, even though there's not a lot of lead time to be prepared for the opponent tomorrow?
Well, the good thing is Syracuse doesn't have much time to prepare for us either. So everybody's in the same boat. I think they understand that, if they want to move on, we have to win. And to do that, we have to be prepared. And I think that my expectation is that they're going to be locked in, whether it's Syracuse or, anybody. But, can't lock them in their rooms and make them study stuff. I think you have to balance it. I think they follow basketball, so they know they've probably played against most of the players on their team, except the international players. Although they've played, some of the players played against her on the AAU circuit. So it's not as much familiarity as we had in the Big East, but that goes both ways. So it's going to be one of those games where we're going to have to feel it out. There's going to be some things we're going to have to just see what works, and the players are going to have to be prepared to try some different things once we get into the game. Stuff that we've already done. We're not recreating the game of basketball, but things that we've worked on that maybe we haven't had to use against other teams, we may have to use against Syracuse. And I'm confident that our players will be ready for it.
We have time for 2 more questions, so we'll finish up with Mark and then Vicky.
Thanks for taking the extra question here. I asked the Syracuse coach and the player that was made available today about this, and I wanted to ask you too about kind of the UConn mystique and how, back when you won those 4 straight championships and barely lost a game, I wondered if when you guys took the floor, if you saw different looks on the faces of the players then that you're seeing now, with there seeming to be more parity in women's basketball. And is there anything to that? Do you think you still have that awe or intimidation factor, or?
Again, another question that I don't know that I am the one to speak on. I think I think watching on film and talking about it is different than stepping on the court and playing us. And that was true whether it was in 2016 with Brianna Stewart and Tuck and Mariah and those guys, and the same is here. You can only, you can talk about stuff, but once you get on the court and the ball goes up, I think anything can happen. And it's up to, other teams to control what they think. I can only work on how our players approach it. We respect everybody. We look them in the eye when we get on the court and we say, let's go. And, we play for 40 minutes and whatever happens, happens. So what did Q say?
Well, he's been playing. He said,
I'll
I've
have to
been
find it
playing
in your
UConn.
article. He said
He,
what?
he said I've been playing UConn since my first year coaching. So it may have, maybe the first few, maybe, but I think he thinks it's worn off because he's played you guys so much. And, it doesn't do them any good to go on the court if they don't think they're going to win. But I don't know how many other teams thought they could beat you guys, especially during that 4-year run, where maybe, team players feel a little more confident now because of how college basketball is all parity in women's and men's, I think.
Well, I would probably say the last few years, people would have, considered us to be down in a downslide, if what I've read was correct. And we were able to hold our own. And like I said, I just think it's different. Once you get on the court, it just looks different. And, we respect them and we have played Q a lot over the last year. We haven't played him the last however many, 6 or 7, but I'm looking for, I think parity in women's basketball is good. I think, people having opportunities to play different teams and certainly in the NCAA tournament, it makes it exciting. Makes it March Madness, even though we're not allowed to say that. But I do think that, I think people maybe look at it a little bit differently now than they did back in 2016.
Thank you.
All right, last one from Vicky.
CD, last year when the tournament got canceled, the NCAA tournament never gets canceled. Was that just kind of a feeling of disbelief for you guys? And then to kind of get back to it yesterday, was it kind of like a sense of joy and excitement to be able to get back to the NCAA tournament after not being able to play last year?
Absolutely. I don't know that anyone could say they expected that last year. It was definitely a shock. And it was probably weeks after where you were like, I can't believe we didn't play. I can't believe they canceled it. Weeks into months. And then, then you're looking at, it's been months and months and months to get back here. So it's been since August to get back to this point. And there is excitement. Everybody's excited. But at the same time, because of the situation that we're in, there's also this waiting for the other shoe to drop. Like when you think of the poor VCU men, they go through the whole year and then they have that taken away from them. So there's always this feeling every day you go to testing that like, oh gosh, could something happen? That's just part of what the year has been like. Hopefully everybody will finish the rest of the tournament without anything happening. But there's always that sense of dread going into that building and waiting to get clearance.